Short-term rentals might get a ton of hype on this channel, but they're not the only way to win big in real estate. There's another strategy that savvy investors are using to invest in real estate called syndications. So today I'm going to explain what syndications are, how they work, whether they have tax benefits, and how to use these investments to generate lasting financial freedom. Without further ado, let's dive in. What are real estate syndications? A real estate syndication is an investing strategy in which multiple investors come together to pool their money and purchase properties that would typically be too costly for an individual to buy alone. So how do real estate syndications work? In a syndication, there are usually two main roles: the syndicator or sponsor, and the investor or limited partners. The syndicator is responsible for finding the deal, arranging financing, and managing the property, while the investors provide most of the capital. Real estate syndicators typically find their investors through a mix of networking, marketing, and referrals. Sponsors are the people or companies running the syndication. They often start by reaching out to their existing networks of friends, family, and business associates who are already interested in real estate or alternative investments. Over time, as sponsors build a track record of successful deals, they develop a reputation, and that reputation attracts repeat investors and referrals from satisfied partners. But what are the benefits of real estate syndications? Well, you get access to larger investments. Real estate syndications allow investors to pool their money together to purchase large properties like apartment complexes, self-storage facilities, or even commercial buildings that would be too expensive to buy alone. This creates opportunities to access high-quality assets typically reserved for institutional investors. By joining forces with others, investors can leverage greater buying power and scale without needing millions in capital of their own. But what about the passive wealth side of syndications? Another benefit is the ability to invest passively. In most syndications, a professional sponsor or management team handles the day-to-day operations. Everything from tenant management to property improvements gets handled by the sponsor. This means investors can enjoy the potential returns of real estate ownership without the headaches of being a landlord. It's a way to build wealth while freeing up time for other pursuits, whether that's focusing on your career, spending time with your family, or just exploring new investments. But what about real estate being a hedge against inflation? Just as a normal real estate investment can act as a great inflation hedge, so too can real estate syndication investments. This is because even though the structure of the investment is different, syndication investments are also tied to the same type of asset: real estate. People always need a place to live, and businesses always need a place to operate from. This means that there will always be a demand for real estate, yet the supply is always limited. This makes real estate a phenomenal inflation hedge, and it has served the purpose for centuries. But what about tax benefits? Real estate syndication investments do come with some significant tax benefits, although not as many as other types of real estate investments like short-term rentals. Here's a quick list of these benefits. Depreciation. Yes, real estate syndicators get depreciation deductions. Depreciation allows investors to deduct a portion of the property's value each year from their taxable income, even as the property may be appreciating in market value. This non-cash expense reduces reported taxable income, which can significantly reduce an investor's tax liability while still providing cash flow. This is what syndicators love. In a syndication, the depreciation flows through to each investor's tax return proportionally to their ownership share. So you get a specific amount of depreciation every single year based on your ownership, and you get a specific amount of cash flow every single year based on your ownership. What about other deductions? The interest paid on the property's mortgage is generally deductible as well, which can help offset rental income and reduce overall taxable income. This makes financing larger properties through syndications more tax efficient compared to paying cash, since a portion of the loan is interest acts as a tax shield. But what about the cost seg? Can you do a cost segregation study in a syndication? Yes, you can. Cost segregation study is a strategy that accelerates depreciation by breaking the property into different components like appliances, lighting, or flooring, allowing these items to be depreciated or written off in a quicker amount of time than the building structure itself. Now, this can lead to a substantial early year tax savings, increasing cash flow for investors during their initial years of ownership. Thanks to the Big Beautiful Bill, which became the law on July 4th, 2025, cost segregation studies are even more beneficial for real estate investors now. This is because bonus depreciation has been restored to 100%. This means that items with shorter depreciation timelines identified in a cost segregation study can potentially be written off in as quickly as 1 year. This means that real estate syndication investors can potentially claim a massive year one bonus depreciation write-off if the sponsor has a cost segregation study done on the property. When it comes to saving money in taxes with real estate deductions, the bonus depreciation deduction counts for a lot. What about capital gains treatment? Any appreciation in the property's value that is realized upon sale after at least 1 year of owning the property is taxed at long-term capital gains rates. These tax rates are generally lower lower than ordinary income tax rates, and in fact, the maximum long-term capital gains tax rate is 20%. This is significantly lower than the highest tax rates for ordinary income, which is 37%. This can make real estate a highly tax-efficient investment, especially for investors who plan to hold properties for several years. Many real estate syndications have long-term strategies and hold properties for a period of many years before selling them, usually 7 to 10 years. But can you use real estate syndication losses to offset W-2 or 1099 income? The vast majority of people are not going to be able to use their real estate syndication losses, such as depreciation, to offset actively earned 1099 or W-2 income. This is because real estate syndications are typically structured so that the passive investors are limited partners. That means any losses are classified as passive losses under IRS rules. By default, passive losses can only offset passive income, not active income like W-2 wages or 1099 self-employment income. So if you invest in a real estate syndication, you would be able to use your losses to offset your passive income from the investments, but not your primary job or business. Karlton, are there any exceptions to this rule? As a matter of fact, there is one very important exception that you need to know, and it's called real estate professional status. If you or your spouse qualifies as a real estate professional under IRS guidelines, the tax treatment of real estate syndication losses can change dramatically in your favor. To meet this designation, you or your spouse must spend at least 750 hours in the year on real estate activities and ensure that more than half of your working hours are in real estate. You and your spouse must also materially participate in the rental property operation, and this isn't limited to just owning properties. It can include activities such as development, construction, acquisition, management, leasing, or brokerage. But by meeting these requirements, you are no longer treated as a purely passive investor. Instead, your real estate activities are considered active participation, which changes how losses are classified. The key advantage is that syndication losses, which are usually considered passive losses, can now be treated as non-passive. That means depreciation and other paper losses generated by the syndications aren't locked into only offsetting only passive income from real estate. Instead, they can go directly to reducing your taxable W-2 or even your 1099 income if you materially participate in the syndication. For high earners, this can be incredibly powerful. Losses from real estate can help lower overall taxable income, potentially moving you into a lower tax bracket and cutting your tax bill substantially. In short, qualifying as a real estate professional opens the door to using syndication losses as a tool for active tax deductions, not just passive sheltering. Now, let's go over some real estate syndication examples. A real estate syndication might look like this. A sponsor finds a 200-unit apartment complex for $30 million and secures a $20 million loan. To cover the remaining $10 million, they raise funds from investors. Say 100 people each contribute $100,000. The sponsor executes a value-add plan, improving the property and increasing rents. Now, during the 5-year hold, investors may receive around 7 to 8% annual cash flow, along with tax benefits from depreciation. When the property sells for $42 million after 5 years, the loan is paid off and roughly $18 million remains. When the money is distributed back to investors, it turns a $100,000 investment into a $180,000 investment, plus the cash flow collected along the way. See the power of these types of investments? One of the best known examples of real estate syndications is Grant Cardone's Karlton Capital. I'm guessing a lot of you watching this video are familiar with Grant Cardone. He's one of the largest real estate investors in the United States. Tens of thousands of people invest in real estate syndications, whether it's through Karlton Capital or other channels. But this includes both accredited and non-accredited investors with his fund. As of 2025, Karlton Capital has over $5 billion, I believe, in assets under management. Shout out to Grant. He's a great leader in the space, a great friend of mine, and I've been fortunate enough to speak at some of his events and on his stages. That being said, some real estate syndicators only allow accredited investors, and some allow both accredited and non-accredited. An accredited investor is a person who makes at least $200,000 a year in annual income, or at least $300,000 a year with their spouse, and has a net worth of at least $1 million, including a primary residence. That's the rules. So if you're not an accredited investor, but you still want to invest in a real estate syndication, just make sure you look for a syndication that allows non-accredited investors to invest. Just like Grant Cardone, I have my own real estate syndication. However, it's only for my private clients. I do not solicit it out to anyone, to the public. So if you join our private client group, you will hear a lot about that. And we have converted a 10-unit property into a 12-unit property, and we're currently raising capital for another 40-unit deal. It's pretty exciting when you can invest with like-minded individuals. That being said, I'm glad you decided to make it onto this video. I hope you like this one. If nothing else, like, comment, subscribe. You know what it is. I look forward to seeing you on the next video. Cheers.